Welcome to the Sellernomics podcast, where we share valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. And now, here is your host, Lisa Kinski.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Sellernomics. My name is Lisa Kinski, just me today, but I have a very exciting guest with me. I am speaking with Steven Selikoff about why Amazon sellers should consider expanding into physical stores. So going not just online, but also into retail. So let me go ahead and bring my guest on. Steven, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Lisa?
I am doing just fabulous, dear. Thank you. I know that you were on the other side of the world at the time of filming this, but I just got to see you in person a couple weeks ago in Atlanta, which was lovely. Yes. And we will talk more about your group and your dinners and things soon. But right now, talking about moving into stores, which is an interesting conversation because I think as of late, I mean, really the last 4 years, right? Coming up on 4 years since the COVID outbreak initially, and everybody kind of stopped. Well, we couldn't go into stores. And then we kind of got acclimated to that lifestyle of ordering everything online. So many people still exclusively get their groceries delivered. Their Christmas shopping is done online, or holiday shopping, I should say. So why do you feel that there is a benefit for sellers expanding into brick and mortar, whereas the rest of the world's kind of viewing it as becoming obsolete?
Good question. And let me answer it in two ways. First is think about some of the protests we had during COVID and the masking and everything else, where there were a lot of people angry that they could only go into stores for essential items. They wanted to get into those stores. They wanted to shop in person. They wanted to hear that jingle as they walk into the door and the little bell rings. If you go all the way back to caveman times, and you look at the pictures they have, they're hunting or they're out there farming. It's always done in groups, not because they absolutely needed the safety, of hunting a small rabbit or something like that. Certainly they didn't need the safety when they were pulling up crops. Hunting and gathering has always been a social situation. And we've seen it throughout history. So during COVID, people missed that social aspect of hunting and gathering. The other thing is just sheer numbers. Amazon is very big in the e-commerce space, but e-commerce is only just about 15% of all of the retail in the US. And actually during COVID, there was a bubble, and then the e-commerce bubble came down a little bit. So New York Times has a great example. Out of every $100 spent, $5 goes to Amazon. Everything else is being bought in stores or other places. So you should definitely be thinking about going into stores, particularly these days. First of all, Amazon sellers, they already know so much that's needed to get there. They just need help over the final few phases. And the other thing is that Amazon or we all know, is increasing their fees all the time. And last year, this time, we were all talking about the fact that Amazon was suddenly over 50%. And now what they do, they came up with new fees and new ways of taking money. It's less expensive. Stores Keystone, that means they take 50%. If something's on the shelf for $50, they pay the supplier $25 for it. It's actually these days more economically positive to be able to sell to stores than it is on Amazon. You don't have the freedom to choose whatever you want, but certainly when it comes to putting money in your bank account and in your pocket, stores are more attractive these days, and Amazon sellers should not be afraid of it. It's a natural extension of what they're already doing.
And that brings up a couple of questions. Like you had said, you don't quite have the luxury of being able to sell anything and everything in the stores, right? Like the merchandiser or whomever has to pick and choose what's available because there has to be kind of an aisle for it or what have you. So I guess that's one question would be, how does an Amazon seller, identify whether or not they have a retail worthy product or come up with a retail worthy product?
All right, good question. First of all, the retailer is looking for a few things. They're looking for a good fit. So let's say that you make really unique cat toys. You can't go into a plumbing supply store and say, sell my cat toys. It's got to be a fit. Then if you go into a pet store with your cat toys, they're going to look at it and they're going to look and wonder, will my customers buy this and will I make more money? So if you have cat toys that look, oh, this is where I get to play with a pun. If you've got a mouse, that's really a toy for a cat. And you go into a pet store, if they don't have anything like that, and they have a sense of humor, they're going to love it. But let's say that there's a provider out there who's already selling these to all sorts of stores. It doesn't make sense for the store to put another one on the shelf. Amazon has infinite shelves. They can put one of these next to another one and next to another one. And they might even be, this one's green, the next one might be gray or blue or black, whatever. And all different sellers are doing that. Amazon loves that. Retailers don't, because if someone comes in and buys this, if they buy this one or the gray one or the white one, it doesn't change their cash register at all. And they've given up space on those shelves. They have a finite amount of space. So they're just going to choose one of them. Mm-hmm. So can't go in with the same thing that's a copycat of others. On Amazon, you can, and then you have to, outmarket and outspend and be smarter and be more strategic and put more money into PPC. Amazon loves that. The store doesn't matter. They're not going to ask you to put money into PPC or anything like that. They're just going to say, hey, can you do something the others don't do? Mm-hmm. So maybe yours, little mouse, when the cat steps in it or bites it or eats it or whatever they do to their toys, it's going to squeak out saying, help me, I'm a mouse, or something like that. Whatever it is, if it's different, that's what stores want. You were in Atlanta, the number one question that retailers have when they come up to folks is, what do you have that I haven't seen yet? And Amazon sellers can do that. They have the tools to do that. You just don't realize it yet.
Yeah. And kind of a second question, you're absolutely right. And I love that explanation, but it sparks another question for me. For anybody who doesn't know, we have a question list that we generally work off for these. And whenever I speak to Steven, it kind of just gets thrown in the trash. And we always come up with a new conversation. So you're right. A lot of Amazon sellers have really unique products that would be a good fit for a lot of these stores. But then comes the question of packaging, because like you've said, fees are always increasing with FBA, and you want to get your product as close to the true size as possible. We were just in Orlando at Camp Ecom, and Antonio Bindi gave a fantastic speech about the breakdown of the upcoming fee changes and how polybags are to a certain extent an Amazon seller's worst nightmare. You want to shrink wrap, you want to saran, you want to vacuum seal. To get as true to the product as possible, but that's not super pretty on a shelf. So I know you help a lot of your sellers with packaging. Talk about that transition in mindset and also execution of FBA packaging versus retail packaging.
Well, FBA packaging has to be designed to meet certain needs and requirements, because you can use your packaging to elevate your sales, to bring more attention to your product and so on. Packaging in retailers is much more critical. And here's the sad news nobody wants to hear, but it is the truth. On Amazon, nobody buys a product. On Amazon, people buy listings. And in stores, nobody buys a product. In stores, they buy boxes. That listing is what communicates and tells everyone about your product. In stores, that box, that tells everyone about your product. And it's got to be done well. It's got to be something that people understand immediately. It's got to be something that stops them as they walk up and down the aisle. It's got to be something that they recognize, yep, this is something I need. And of course, then we go into price, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, tonight. But you've got to get their attention. And here's the number one thing. Your listing has a lot of keywords, so that you are actually going to be found by people who are looking for a specific product. When you're on the store shelves, you can't obviously do keywords, but also you can't make your product packaging so off the wall and unique, and wow, this is incredible that people don't know what it is. And here's the trick to think about. Walk into any major supermarket, pharmacy, uh, a mass market store, and walk over to the sections that have aspirin and Tylenol instead of, however you say, ibuprofen. Look at them. We all know the brand names. We've been having these products in front of us our entire lives, and yet every one of them says pain reliever. It's very simple. What is the product? As long as people know what that product is, then you can start selling it. So that's one of the major differences. And I'll use another example, another story like that. Henry Ford, when he came out with the automobile, the car, he made it affordable for everyone. He didn't say, hey, this is a car you can afford. He didn't say this is an automobile you're going to love. He said, here it is, a horseless carriage. So your package has to communicate what it is in a way that people immediately understand, yes, this is how it's going to help me. And this is what the product is that I'm buying. You do that, and you're 95% of the way already there with your packaging and retail. But it's not going to fulfill your needs for Amazon. So you really do need a different type of headset for that.
And then with getting on the shelf, so you have this incredible product, it fits the need, you've got your packaging. I can imagine a world where, this happens all the time. Small business owners who have a product that they make in their home, candles is probably the easiest example here, walk into a locally owned shop. They talk to the shop owner right there and they say, hey, do you want to buy this box of 100 candles? You can sell them for this markup, et cetera, et cetera. Easy enough. You're talking PetSmart, Macy's, Walmart. Now, maybe not Walmart.
Well, let's stay where you are right there. First of all, with the candles. That's what Mike Kittredge did. He was in college. He made some candles. He made candles for his mom. She loved them. And he needed to make money in college. So he literally walked into stores and said, here are my candles. And if you don't know the name Mike Kittredge, he died a few years ago. You do know his candles. It was called Yankee Candle Company. Wow. We eventually sold for billions of dollars, doing exactly what you said. I got a text a couple of months back. I was getting on an airplane and I got a text and I was just looking at just grinning from a woman down in Australia, Sarah. I did a workshop down there and she and her mom took care of me, had me stay in their Airbnb, just wonderful. So we sat down in the evenings and we talked about getting into retailers. She sent me a text saying, we finally did what you said. They literally walked into a local retailer that sells their products. And the retailer said, yeah, we'd love to. And then they walked into another one. And that retailer said, yes, we'd love to. That simple. It actually got better because as they started going on social media, other retailers reached out to them. So if you have a product that is different that they want to see, and it doesn't have to be, a car that runs on water and pizza trimmings. It can be a simpler thing. But if it's something they don't have on the shelves yet that their customers want, then they want to sell it. You just have to get in front of them and let them see it. And it's got to be at the right price. That's critical.
And we'll get to that. I want to get to that after the break. But when you're talking about just walking into these retailers and Yankee Candle having the success, Sarah having the success, are we talking like, just to go back to the cat toy reference, right? So are we talking about Polly's Pet Shop where she has 3 locations in Metro Atlanta, or are you talking about PetSmart? Like, where does the line
Super great question
exist? Like, how much license?
So if you're brand new, then walk into Polly's, because Polly is going to give you the best education you'll ever have. She'll tell you, yes, I love it, and this is why, and can you do this, and can you do that? She'll ask you questions like, how many do I have to buy at a time, because you sell in multiples, and how long will it take to get here? By the way, retailers, particularly ones that are Polly-sized, they pay for the shipping. That's not Polly bag size, Polly pet, or whatever you called it. Size. Small independent retailers, they pay for the shipping as well. So it's fabulous. It's money in your pocket. She's going to teach you everything you need to know. Even better is if she says, yeah, I like it, but that's not for us. And she goes in and she talks about the fact that they're focused on dogs and you need to know their customers. You will learn everything from her. But on the large scale level, the difference is you're talking to one person who makes a decision for 4,000 stores compared to Polly, who makes a decision for her 3 stores. Other than that, the basics are still the same. They want something that customers want to have at a price they want to pay that they're not already selling. And that's at the core level, that's the conversation.
Wow, that's true. I guess it is just different sizes and names, and it's all the same, kind of like sales. Anybody can sell anything. You just got to know what it is. Steven,
When we were in ready for the break.
Yes, I was going to say, we're going to take a super quick break and then we'll come back. And I want to talk specifically about the pricing. We've teased it a couple of times, but it's super, super important to touch on. So we will be right back in just a second.
Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics.
All right.
I love that background music. I'm just going to sit here and jam for a while.
I think we use that in pretty much all of the ads. We are going to be changing them up pretty soon, but that's good feedback for us. But you guys, if you haven't already, please check out Getida.com/Sellernomics for that first 400 in FBA reimbursements free. We are back with Steven Selikoff and talking about money. What is the pricing model or secret that sellers need to know going from selling on Amazon to selling on brick and mortar store shelves?
So before I go there, I've got to give it a quick shout out to a couple of my clients or Shark Tank clients who went on Shark Tank because they actually built a product to support the fact that they are competitive dancers. So I may be doing terrible, but who knows where that dancing is going to get you. That ended up for them on Shark Tank and Lowe's and a bunch of stores. So that's pretty cool. That's the last you're going to see of me dancing, though. So sorry about that. We were talking about pricing. Pricing is really simple with retailers. Big boxes may be a little bit off, but generally you can look at them keystoning. Again, which I've said, if something's on the shelf for $50, they paid the supplier $25. So if you're creating a product and you're selling it, understand that, and this is a little bit sad hearing this, the person who's going to make the most money is the retailer because they're going to buy it from you and double it. But you're going to make more money than your suppliers because you're going to buy it and multiply that out as well. But the numbers are really simple. The problem comes when you start thinking about profitability. And this is a really simple answer, but it's something you have to remember. With retail, and this has been retail for, I started in 2001. So this has been the rule in retail for at least 25, 30 years. You want a 7x multiplier. That means the retail price that you see on the shelf needs to be at least 7 times more than the money you are paying your supplier. The raw cost, that's the money you pay your supplier. And the shelf price should be at least 7 times more. If you do that, then you're going to be making money. Back in 2014, 2015, it was really easy in the Amazon world to say, oh, 1/3 is the cost of your product, 1/3 is Amazon fees, and 1/3 is in your pocket. It's not like that anymore. Amazon fees have gone up dramatically. But if you go back even to Jungle Scout, and geez, I'm going to embarrass myself here because I forget the name of the fellow who did launch Jungle Scout. Anyway, if you go back to his original videos, you'll see that he's talking about a 5x over landed cost. That's basically the same as a 7x over raw cost. Even back then, he was saying this is the way to make money. So if you can get a 7x, and that you should be thinking about from the very beginning, and actually that's key to the way that I teach product development. If you can think about that, 7x, if you can achieve it, 7x, then you're making profit. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. And so then talking about the product itself, we've talked about, kind of uniqueness is important to a certain extent, right? It needs to be unique enough to be differentiated, but it has to make sense for the store shelf. Why is it easier to source a unique product than like a Me Too product? And for our audio listeners, I'm putting up air quotes. And I think when we say that, we mean like the garlic press. I think that was a big craze back in the day, at one point maybe, or I can't think of another thing. I'm sure that there's like 1,000 different of the same phone case,
yoga mats and so on.
Yoga mats, etc. Yeah. So why is, because to me, sourcing a unique product or like a fully custom first of its kind product would be more difficult, but it kind of walk me through that.
All right. Well, there are some myths and misunderstandings out there. When you create something that is brand new, sometimes those products will come with startup costs. For example, if you're creating a ladle, and this is PE, PVC, whatever, it's just slightly soft. This has a mold that is created first, and then the plastic is put in hot, it cools off, and out pops your ladle. You've got to pay for that mold, and that mold, particularly for the size of this ladle, you're probably looking at 12,000, and then another for the handle, maybe less depending on where you get it made. On the other hand, here's a tin of Altoids. If you're making a little tin, it also needs a mold. Same name, different thing. In this case, it's just a punch mold. So it sits on a machine. It comes down and it punches this little shape out of it. For that, you're probably looking at $1,500.
Okay.
So people know that when you make something unique, there's sometimes an upfront cost, and they get frightened by that. Some things don't even need an upfront cost. For example, if you're doing, I don't know, a cell phone, a shirt that holds a cell phone right up here on your shoulder at all times, may not be a big seller, but there's no upfront cost in that at all. That frightens people, but this is the part to remember. When you talk to your supplier, and your supplier says, oh yeah, this is going to cost you $15 for every ladle. And you're thinking, that's ridiculous. I can get it off the shelf in Walmart for less than that. They're going to say $15, and you want to get it lower. They have no motivation to get that price lower, because the moment you say no, there's 25 people behind you who are all lined up. And maybe they're not as sophisticated or as experienced as you. So when they hear $15, they say, yeah, I'll pay that. You have no leverage. On the other hand, if they turn around and they see, here we are, the little mouse that squeaks and says, help me, I'm a mouse, now they have nobody else who's getting that. And maybe if you go through all the numbers and you explain to them your business, by the way, never, I think we've touched on this in the past, always protect your IP. Don't turn around and give it to them just when you're trying to get an RFP or something, RFQ. You need to give them a reason for them to believe in your product. So you need to do that upfront research. Make sure it's a product that people want, that retailers want to sell. The moment they find out that you have a unique product and you're selling to retailers, you are unlike anyone else who walks in the door. Now they want to work with you. They want to partner with you. They want to cooperate with you, as they say in China. They want to build guanxi, because as you do well, they do well. And they're going to give you their best possible price. There's no 25 people behind you. If that price doesn't work for you, you say goodbye, and that's it. And walk on and find someone who'll do it for that price. They have no other options. So now they don't have that safety net. They have to do business with you. And because of that, the per unit cost can come down dramatically.
I love that explanation. And that's even really good to know, just alone with the punch mold versus the injection mold, the price difference between those two. And because that never occurred to me. We, when I worked at Noviland, we spoke a lot about plastic injection molds and things. And I knew that they were quite expensive. I didn't even realize that punch mold, template would be as cheap as $1,500, like you were saying. But let's pivot back a little bit to what you were saying about protecting your IP. Because that's something that sellers are often concerned about, right? Is taking their product to a factory and then the factory turning around and taking their design and selling it on Amazon under their own listing for half the cost. So how can sellers protect their IP, protect their product, and protect their profits?
So just because this happens to be on the table and because we're talking about cats, let's bring the two of these things together. You're creating a bunch of kitchen utensils for people who love cats or dogs. You've probably seen the t-shirts that say, no meal in my house is complete unless it has dog hair in it or something like that. People laugh about those things. So let's say that you are doing a cat-based ladle and spatula and forks and knives and soup things. And each one of them has a cutout of a cat, pretty little cat's face. It's cute. It's different. You can have them in fun pastel colors and just have some fun with it. It's something unique. It's not something that's out there. That's fabulous. That right there is, now I'm going to have to ask you to go back to the question because I'm going to start going into the prices and everything of this. But
IP.
that gives you a chance to be something that's different. Coming to the IP, if you want to get the price of what it costs to create this ladle with the little cat cutout in it, don't go to your factory and say, how much does it cost to create a ladle like this with a cat cutout in it? No. Find yourself 4 or 5 or 6 factories that you really like after analyzing them, visiting them if you can. If you go to the Canton Fair, go from booth to booth to booth, and then say to them, how much does it cost to create this ladle? Every one of them, because you're comparing price to price to price to price. And when you do so, you'll know which ones have the best price, which ones are communicating the fastest to you, which are responsive, which are communicating in a way that you understand, which are being patient with you. All those things that go into choosing the factory. You're not sourcing the cat cutout ladle. You're sourcing a regular ladle. This is a decoy. And all you're doing is you're using the decoy to get the prices without giving away your secrets. Then, once you've chosen that factory, you get an NNN agreement. And any Chinese attorney can do it. As long as you have a business attorney at home in the US, ask them. They should have co-counsel, some sort of counsel they can recommend to China. And write out an NNN. That's a non-compete, non-disclose, non-circumvent agreement. And the importance for that is people say, well, they'll just ignore it and stuff like that. It's China. It's not the US. US, we are litigious. Everyone wants to go to court. Everyone wants to sue everyone else. This is China. Nobody wants to stand up and be the nail that gets, hit down. So unless it's really important for them to go to court, they're not going to do that. And they actually have records that follow them forever. So everyone will know that this is a company that goes to court for stealing people's ideas. That's bad. And it gets worse. Their attorneys have that record follow them as well. So their attorneys don't want to be involved. So it's not a case of it saying, hey, that's going to prevent them and you have to be able to have a whole bunch of money to keep them from copying you. It's the bicycle lock theory. If you have a bicycle lock on your bicycle, they'll deal with bicycles that don't have locks. That's just one step. Then, of course, everybody knows about patents, trademarks. If your trademark says kitchen cats or something like that, get it right here on it, right over here, made in China, exclusively for kitchen cats. Now it's on that ladle. If it shows up on the streets of Hong Kong being sold to suppliers who are going to sell to people on Amazon, it has your trademark on it. That's easy to shut down. And you don't even have to worry about going for a patent. You met Anna in Atlanta. We just put through a second patent for her, and the price was a fraction of what a Chinese patent, fraction of what a U.S. patent's like. So of course you've got patents, you've got trademarks, you've got copyrights. If you're doing, here we go. Here's a children's toy. So this design, this little dog head over here, someone drew that. Get it copyrighted and get it registered. Now someone else rips you off. Not only can you go after them because it's registered more easily. Of course, you don't need to register copyrights, but that's a different conversation. But once it is registered, not only is it easy to go after, but for every one of these that they sell, let's say they sell $10 each, you get triple damages. So you get $30 for every one that they sell for $10. And guess what? Get the biggest badass attorney you can, because they also have to pay your attorney fees when you register your copyright. And this is the last one I'll say, but it's the one that most people do not know about. Record your product. You have a trademark on it, record it. In the US, I believe it's called e-recordation, but just Google record your trademark with Customs and Border Protection. You can do the same thing in China. So that means if anyone then tries to ship out a box of stuff that says kitchen cats or something like that, and it's not your name on it or your company name, it stays in China. It does not leave. They can't get it out of the country. And just in case someone gives someone else a red envelope so it gets out of the country, record in the US. And when it gets to the US, it'll be seized at the border and it won't be allowed to sell. That's $190 for 10 years, $19 a year, best $19 you'll ever spend. There's lots of ways of protecting your IP. So you decoy source, you get your agreements like NNNs. Always remember legal IP protection like trademarks, copyrights, and of course patents. Put your trademark, whatever it is, if you have something that's being like plastic injection or printed or something like that, it has to say made in China anyway, made in China exclusively for kitchen cats, and then record all of it so that you end up having, it cannot leave China and it cannot get in the US if someone other than you are doing it. Right away, that helps you tremendously. And then, Lisa, you're still going to eventually be copied. So make sure that you've got version 2 already in your head. So by the time they do get around to selling ones with cats, you got dog faces on it and you're moving ahead of them.
That is alone, that last 4 minutes, I think, is worth the entire episode's weight in gold. That was so wonderful, Steven. Thank you so much. We are at the end of the time for our question set, but I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your recent rebrand. So you're obviously very well known in the Amazon and e-commerce community under Product Development Academy, and now we have you as Product Development Incubator. So talk to me about the rebrand and what that shift means.
Well, people come to me for all sorts of reasons, but a lot of people not sure exactly what it is that I do. So Product Development Incubator, or Product Development Academy, we've now rebranded it as Product Development Incubator and Product Development China Trip. So the Product Development Incubator is specifically, as an incubator, we help you develop your products, or we help you accelerate the growth, or we help you overcome problems. So let's say that you've got a product that, we'll use Shark Tank again. Let's say you've got a product on Shark Tank, everyone saw it, everyone loves it, and you're just not making enough money per product to get into retailers and so on. Then at that point, we'll come and we'll work together and try to get it for less money than you. Let's say you've got the best idea in the world, and like we just talked about, how do you turn around and make sure that China doesn't copy it? You've got great product, everyone loves it. You don't know how to make it retail ready so that you can talk to retailers, or you don't know how to get in front of retailers, or what happens after you make that sale. You probably didn't even know that you need a retail consultant because it becomes a client, not a transactional sale. We help you through all of that. And the most fun I have is when people come to me with just an idea or the desire for an idea. And we help take you all the way from that desire all the way to the point of having it on retailer shelves. And by the way, when I say that, I'm not saying exclusive, don't do Amazon, do both. People buy wherever they see it. If they see it in the store, they'll buy it. If they see it online, they buy it. And the great thing, as I said at the beginning, Amazon sellers already know so much. They just need a little push over the last part of it.
Yeah, and
So
I love
that's the incubator.
That's the half.
China Trip's probably pretty self-explanatory. That's that. We get all of this done holding your hand in China. I didn't mean to interrupt. Let's keep going.
No, you're okay. There's a slight delay, so we've tripped over each other a couple times, but nothing crazy. I was going to say that's one of the things that I really enjoy about meeting up with you and your group in Atlanta is speaking with some of your students. I've done 2 dinners with you now, and there were two students of yours, or I guess 3, that were at both. And what I love is how excited they are about their own products, right? Sometimes Amazon sellers are somewhat laissez-faire about it, and they're just like, I sell, the water bottles, no big deal. But your students really have something unique. They're really passionate about it. And when you talk about the most fun that you have is when somebody just comes to you with an idea and you're helping them build it out. I remember you had a student and she said, it's so frustrating because you're like, let me sit on this. Let me really process it and think it through and do some research. And you give a lot of thought and consideration, and you're not just blindly letting these folks do whatever they feel might be best, because that's another pitfall that Amazon sellers have a lot of the times, I feel like, and what we've heard a lot in the industry is just because you're super passionate about something doesn't necessarily mean that there's a market for it. So you almost have to separate yourself from the product, but you also have another seller that has a super unique item, Anna, and she's she's really passionate about it, and it's going to sell like hotcakes for sure. So you've got an incredible group there with the incubator and then the trips as well. Do you want to talk about a little bit about the China trip and the experience that they'll have? And then we can drop some links for info.
Absolutely. It's interesting because Anna came with me on the China trip a few years ago, pre-COVID. And China is a great place for being inspired and getting new ideas, for being able to compare your suppliers one after another, after another, after another. If you understand how to do the Canton Fair, you will definitely come away with inspiration, if not new ideas. And in our case, we do more than that. We also teach you about certifications and quality, and we take you to a certification lab, and we take you to an inspection company, a licensed inspection company. Folks, don't go to the non-licensed ones. We take you to the port. I cannot believe how many people do DDP shipping with really shady DDP-based shippers, freight forwarders out of China. I'll tell you this right now, which is going to be very frightening. Most people are not aware about this, but one of the guests that we had in the incubator program had many, many years as being in charge of enforcement for Custom and Border Protection. They know who those shady freight forwarders are. They know the games that they're playing. They know them not only by their names, but by where their addresses are, who their employees are, and everything else. So if they shut down, they reopen, they can still track them. They know you by your address, where these are being delivered, and so on. And these shady folks have big black marks against them. And the moment you do business with them, you're starting to get red flags too. Those don't go away. They start piling up. So if you've got 4 or 5 years, you're sending 30 or 40 shipments every year from some of these shady guys, you're getting some pretty big red flags against your name, and eventually that's going to hurt you. So we take everyone to the port. We get this, the CO of the port takes everyone around. We go to a warehouse. You get to see how things are done incorrectly. We spend an evening with an attorney who goes through business basics in China. So there's a lot more than the fair, but the fair itself is just incredible. So that happens there. And I've got to touch on Anna. We just mentioned her, and I mentioned how she did come to China. And she's been back a few times since then with me because we visited her factory. But as you said, she came to me with an idea, and I said, no, that's not good enough. And another idea, and I said, no, that's not good enough. And she does it with her expression because she was not happy about me saying that, but I'm not here to BS anyone. Her ideas were good, but they were not good enough. And then finally she came to me with an idea, and I said, let me think about this. It took about almost 2 weeks before I got back to her, and she was getting very fidgety. And I said, this is a great idea. Let's make some modifications to protect your IP and make it really crazy and wonderful and everything. And I think you've seen videos of it. I should get this out there for people to see. There in Atlanta, right before we had our dinner together, there was a debut of VIP Day, which is actually the day before the official opening. VIP buyers came in. Buyers are the people who make decisions for stores. In this particular case, this particular store was actually a chain store with 431 stores. The buyer was interested in buying 6 per store because they come in multiples. And the wholesale price, that's the price that you sell to retailers, was $250. Do the math. 431 stores, 6 per store, and $250 each. The very first day, the pre-first day, the VIP day. That's launching at $646,000. Actually, $646,500. How's that for launching? And when you're at 7X, that's all profitable. That's what happens when you think of Amazon and retailers. Mm-hmm. More than $500,000 first day launch. And that's real life. You had dinner with her. You saw her yourself. You heard her story. Who wouldn't be passionate about that?
Right, exactly. And if that's not a case study for you, if that's not a testimonial right there, I don't know what is. So let's go ahead and give
there's so many others. We have someone who got Time Magazine Invention of the Year, piles of awards. We have someone with a toy where a small company came up and said, can we private label your toy? Can we put our name on your toy? That small company is called Mattel. They want to put Mattel's name on these toys that was developed. This is normal. This is natural. If you have ideas, if you think I can't do it, you can. You can, and you should. These are people who are not doing side gigs. These are real businesses that are huge, and I love seeing all of this. Wait till next year. We've got even better things coming out.
I am so excited. And for anybody listening, if you guys are interested in working with Steven or just learning more, you can reach out to him directly at Steven, that's Steven with a V, at productdevelopmentincubator.com. You can also learn more about his group at productdevelopmentincubator.com, or you can learn more about the trip and about the Canton Fair at cantonfair2024.com. And if you're from the South, it's pronounced Canton, but in China, it's Canton, and that's how it's spelled. So Canton. Steven, thank you so much for being here with me today, dear. Super, super appreciate all of your time and knowledge, and for taking this at 2 a.m. your time, because you're traveling right now on the other side of the world.
I'm officially on vacation now, which is wonderful. I align my vacations with Chinese New Year. I'm in Thailand. There's all sorts of things around here for Chinese New Year, and I'm probably going to sleep through all of it, maybe write a little bit, relax.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for spending part of your vacation with me, but I will let you get back to it. And thank you for everyone who tuned in today. If you guys like what you heard, please be sure to give us a thumbs up, share your thoughts with us in the comments, subscribe to the show, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, Getida. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.